Good morning, rock stars, and welcome to day 2 of the 12 days of FMQ FAQ with me, Holly and Knight of String and Story. It is my job to guide you to quilt with confidence, and today I'm super excited to be moving us towards free motion quilting confidence by discussing what supplies we need for free motion quilting. Now, if you were with me yesterday, you know that we've already talked about what machine you need in order to FMQ successfully. Hint, it is probably the machine you already have. All you probably need to do is do a little clean and oil on your machine and make sure you have the supplies that we discussed today. All right. So rock stars, as we jump in today, like I said, we're going to be talking about further supplies that we need for free motion quilting. If you are here with me live or joining on the replay, as I begin to teach, there are two things I need you to do first. First, I would love for you to comment and let me know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from. And if you have any questions about supplies for free motion quilting, go ahead and ask them in that chat box. Second, if you are brand new to the String and Story channel, or if you just maybe never done this step before, take a moment and hit subscribe to the String and Story YouTube channel. It's going to make it easier for you to find this video again later, as well as make it easier for you to follow along for the rest of our fun activities that we have going on this month. As you know, in the caption of this video, I always put important links. I put a brief little blurb specifically about needles and thread for free motion quilting today. And we're going to be talking about that and more as we're going along. But I've linked a blog specifically to that because thread is something I get a lot of questions about. And I have strong opinions about thread, and I'm excited to share them with you. But I also want you to be able to dive in and read a little bit more and get connected to other resources. So that is the first link in the caption of this video. The second link in the caption of this video is for a free event that I'll be teaching right here on YouTube later this month called the Quilting Plan Challenge. And that is all about answering the question, what the heck do I quilt where? And how do I decide what to quilt where on my quilt? How do I draw that quilting plan? And then how do I begin to execute it? So that's going to be coming up later this month. Right now, we are answering the question, what supplies do I need for free motion quilting? So I see y'all saying hi in the chat. Welcome, Kirsten. Welcome, Francie Joe. Welcome, Kate. Welcome, Leanne. I am so glad that you are here. Christine, good morning. Good morning. It is fabulous to see y'all. As I mentioned, if you haven't already, do go ahead and hit subscribe so it'll be easier to find the rest of these videos. All right. Now, without further ado, let's break down the supplies you need for free motion quilting. All right. Now, the most obvious thing is, of course, your machine, like we discussed yesterday. For the purposes of this conversation, I am going to be focusing on rock stars who are quilting on their domestic sewing machine. So your home sewing machine, it might look something like my Bernina here. You might have a Singer, you might have a Janome, you might have any brand. This is not a brand specific conversation, okay? But I do want to make sure that I just clarify right now, I'm focusing much more on domestic machines or sit down machines rather than long arms on a frame. All right. We talked about that a couple of months ago. We'll talk about it again in a couple of months. Morning, Yvonne. Good to see you. All right. Once you have your machine, the next thing you're going to need to make sure you have, and this is perhaps the trickiest bit of supplies, is a free motion quilting foot. Now, a free motion quilting foot is unique in that it is designed to not work with your feed dogs. Okay, the feed dogs are the little grabby bits down in the needle plate that help move our fabric in a straight line when we're piecing and move the fabric through the machine. That's why when we're piecing, we can just kind of gently guide and let that needle and those feed dogs do the work. Okay, the needles and the feed dogs move in unison with one another or in rhythm with one another. All right, but when we're free motion quilting, we're going in all kinds of directions, hence the name free motion, right? And so we need a foot that is not going to be following along with those feed dogs. And I have quite a few here with me today just to show you what they might look like. All right. If you are on an off-the-shelf machine or a more introductory level machine, it is quite likely that this will be your first free motion quilting foot. This is a pretty universal foot. For most home sewing machines, it is plastic and oblong. It clamps right onto the side, you know, of that foot bar, and then this goes right above the needle bar, and it does a little hopping motion as you're quilting. This is called a hopping foot, all right? Some folks really hate them because they can be a little squeaky. I was trying to make mine squeak for us, but it is apparently not. There we go. Actually, mine's not very squeaky, but you can see how it has that little spring, and it'll make that little hopping motion as we're going along. And that's just so that it is down at your fabric, and then it'll move up a little bit as you're moving it. Okay. Another type of hopping foot is a metal one like this. This particular one I got with an Eversewn. So a slightly higher end off the shelf machine, you might get something like this, or if you were to buy like a quilting foot set on any ye old big brands online, it might look something like this. All right. These are the same exact kind of foot. Another type of foot that you might use that also has that hopping motion is an embroidery foot. This is my Bernina embroidery foot. It is a single hole foot, perfectly round. Personally, I think for free motion quilting, the visibility on this is a little bit less, but I know a lot of folks that use this foot and love it. Okay. Hello, Alicia. Do I get to see you this weekend? I hope. Hey, Karen. Hello, hello. Oh, it's so good to see all your faces. Yay. All right. So those are all types of hopping feet for free motion quilting. And those are all great starting places for free motion quilting. I used this machine or this foot for years. And this is still the foot that we use on our classroom burnettes here inside String and Story on Maine. Okay. So if you're like, I want something easy to find, we actually carry this foot at String and Story. I know we have at least one over there right now, and this is going to fit most domestic sewing machines. Okay. So if you want something easy, here you go. And the price point on this is like $5 to $10. Okay, so that's another thing that I want us to go ahead and debunk today. We debunked a couple of things yesterday about what machines we need, right? We don't need to make these big dollar investments in brand new machines before we know if we like free motion quilting, right? We're going to start with what we have. It may not be the maximum joy units in terms of ease of use if you have a really basic machine, but I want you to get started where you're at. And you can always upgrade later once you discover that you're going to fall in love with free motion quilting. Carolyn, oh, I'm thrilled that you're here. And Helen, oh, I know that it hasn't been that long since I've been live, but I just feel like I haven't seen y'all in forever. This is delightful. Okay, so similarly to not spending many dollars on brand new sewing machines right now, I want to keep our free motion quilting foot investment as affordable as we can. Now, if you are on a brand where I would recommend the brand specific foot, Bernina is that. It is, of course, going to be a little bit more money, but still having the proper foot is going to really make your machine work for you. Okay, so if you're on an off-the-shelf machine, you're looking at a very low investment with your foot. If you get a Bernina foot, so that would be like this embroidery foot that I already showed you, or if you were to get a ruler foot, Bernina feet are like $100, right? That's a larger investment. That is still less than sending a quilt out to get quilted, right? You quilt a couple of quilts yourself and you've recouped that investment. And so that is an investment that I think is worth your experimentation process to discover if you like quilting your own quilts. And of course, it's part of my job to make that process as joyful and confident as possible. All right. This is the foot that I use now. This is a ruler foot for free motion quilting. The free motion quilting part is that it is round and smooth and is going to glide over my fabric. The ruler part is that it has that 1/4 inch edge on it where I can put, do I have a quilting ruler here? I do have my ruler here right now. Thank goodness. This ruler goes back and forth between here where my domestic machines live and my house where my long run lives. All right. So you can see that this has that higher edge that my ruler could bump up against it and not slide underneath and not be dangerous. If you are making an investment in a foot, okay, if you have a nice Bernina, or if you have any other nice brand name machine where you're going to go to your dealer to buy a foot anyway, and you're going to be paying brand name pricing on a foot, go ahead and buy a ruler foot. Okay. I know that you may be sitting there going, I don't even know how to free motion quilt yet. Why am I going to need a ruler foot? This is so that you don't have to invest in another new foot later. Okay. This foot will grow with you as you learn free motion quilting and transition into adding ruler work to your repertoire, because at some point you will. Okay. You'll want it to help you stitch in the ditch. You'll want it to do some clamshells. You'll want it for something. So if you're going to be making an investment in a foot anyway, go ahead and get this foot. Like I said, if you're on a smaller machine, if you are on a Burnett, if you are on a Singer, if you are on an off-the-shelf Brother or Janome, go ahead and start with this lovely plastic hopping foot. Okay. All right. Let me see. I see a question from Christine. She says, I started my quilting journey on a Bernina 330. I now have a FAF QE that I inherited from my aunt. I cannot get my quilting foot to work with my machine. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong with the adjustment. Did you buy the foot from the dealer? Like, did you go to a FAF dealer to get your foot, or did you get a FAF foot? Because I think if not, it's possible that you don't have the right shank. So you could have a high shank foot and a low shank machine, or vice versa. I don't know what shank height the QE is off the top of my head. Okay, so if you went to the dealer and you're still having issues, I have found that sometimes getting this little clippy edge, right, to go around can be tricky. And then make sure that this bar is going over the needle screw. Let's see if I can show you. Can you see? You're not going to be able to see the needle screw on mine, but you know how there's like the screw that comes out to the right? Make sure this is going to rest on that, okay? Beyond that, two thoughts. here on YouTube, search for your machine free motion quilting foot and see if you can find someone putting on. If you still get stuck, take some pictures and send me an email. hello@stringandstory.com, and I will do whatever I can to try to figure that out with you. All right? Awesome. Kyle says, I try to leave my ruler foot on all the time so I can switch back and forth, but I still watch the needle too much, so I switched to the open toe foot for free motion quilting. Oh, interesting. Yeah, watch in front of the needle. Don't watch the needle. But I'm like you, Kyle, that I try to leave my ruler foot on. That's my default. Okay. All right. So now that we have our machine and our foot, what about our needle? What about our thread? I'm so glad that you asked. There are many amazing needles on the market. I use a standard Schmetz universal needle. Okay. You could use a top stitch needle as well if you want a slightly larger eye. You could also use a jersey or ballpoint needle if you want a slightly less sharp tip on your needle, if you're concerned about fiber longevity, etc. That's a whole controversial topic. We could do a whole YouTube video on whether or not you should quilt with ballpoint needles. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But what I ultimately find is I love being able to just switch seamlessly between piecing and quilting. And so I buy just like a ton of multi-packs of Schmetz needles, or I'll buy like the couple of sizes I use the most often. We do have Schmetz universal needles here in the String and Story shop. And I will use a size 14, 16, or 18 for quilting. Okay. 14 is what I use if I am on something like a practice sandwich like this, where I do not have any seams. 16 is what I will use typically. If I'm doing something that has a lot of really bulky seams, then I will go up to a size 18. I don't pre-wash my fabric, so even though that makes a slightly larger hole from the needle, as soon as I wash my quilts, those little holes shrink right up, okay? So that's just not something that I'm worried about. And I'm more interested in needle durability. I don't want broken needles while I'm quilting, okay? So hopping foot, universal needle, I recommend starting with a size 14 or 16, which you probably already have. Then thread and gloves. All right, while we're on our machine, we'll talk about thread. Aurifil 50 weight. Y'all know me, die hard Aurifil 50 weight, okay? It is fine. It is strong. It is beautiful. It creates just that like little bit of a gloss. You get nice crisp. Why is that word so hard? Crisp stitches. And because it is so fine, I find it the easiest to adjust my tension, okay? In addition to 50 weight, if you want to play around with thread weights a little bit more, Aurifil 40 weight is the original Aurifil thread weight. It is just a tiny bit thicker. You can even use an Aurifil 28 weight if you really want your stitches to stand out. But working with 40 or 28 weight, I find that the tension can be a little bit more persnickety on my machines. So when you're just learning, I love Aurifil 50 weight. Plus, you get the most thread on a single spool, the most thread on your bobbin. All right. From there, our machine is now set up, right? Yesterday, we talked about the importance of cleaning and oiling our machine. Today, we've talked about feet and thread and needles. What about the actual quilting bits themselves, right? You will start actually practicing your free motion quilting motifs on paper. So you'll need a paper and pen, but then when you start practicing, you of course will need quilts. So this could be as simple as this was a half yard of fabric that I, cut to be 2 fat quarters and turned into a practice sandwich. I love using Hobbs batting. So I either use Hobbs 100% cotton, Hobbs Cotton Supreme, which is a little bit thicker, or Hobbs 80/20, right? And then I use my free motion quilting gloves for the best posture and less hand strain experience, okay? Paper and pen, fabric and batting, very straightforward. Oh, yes. Kate, I'm so glad you waited. Kate says 28 is my favorite weight, but use 50 to start with. Yes, I agree, Kate. I agree. So the last technical little bit that I want to talk about is I want to talk about why free motion quilting gloves. I actually possess several pairs of free motion quilting gloves that y'all will have seen. So these I actually got as a freebie from Quilty Love magazine many moons ago. You can see this looks just like a basic nylon glove, right? And it has some little grippy bits on the palm. All you need is something basic like this, okay? If you are in the boat of my budget is tight, I'm considering Free Motion Quilting Academy, and I want to keep my supply overhead, as kind of minimal as possible, you could go down to Ye Dollar Store and get yourself a pair of like thin gardening gloves with a little bit of rubberiness on the palm, and you're good to go to get started. Okay. Step up from that, the glove that I used for years, and that was my favorite for years and is now my second favorite, was the Fons and Porter. These are, I don't know, 10, 20 bucks. Not very expensive at all. Very similar concept, except that we have a nice cotton exterior, so a little less scratchy, a little more breathable. Same thing, you've got some grippies on the palm and the fingers. And then this glove is also a little bit more fitted, right? You can just see it's got that gusseted thumb, so it just fits your hand a little bit more nicely. Yeah, and Helen, that's such a great tip. Helen's like, I wear my gloves even for long seams. So before I talk about my new favorite glove, let's take a moment to talk about why gloves, okay? Gloves are worn for two primary reasons. One is to reduce hand strain, and the second is to keep hand schmutz off your quilt. Okay, so we don't want oils or dirt, or if you're like me and you like to snack while you quilt, snacky crumbs on our quilts. All right, and so gloves are going to reduce that. Of course, the more important of these two purposes is reducing hand strain. When we have a big old quilt here on our table, and we are moving a section of it. Here, I'll scoot back for y'all. $8. Thank you, Christina. I was like, I don't actually know the price of these off the top of my head because I don't carry them right now. So, we have this big old quilt and we're over here, we're moving a section of this underneath our needle. We want to make sure that we reduce body strain as much as possible. And we're going to talk more about posture as we're going along this month. But that starts with our hands, right? And this little bit of extra friction between your hand and your quilt, especially as moving a big quilt, it's not uncommon for your hands to get a little extra sweaty, a little extra oily. It just gives you a little bit more of a grip in order to move that quilt around successfully. Now, my current favorite quilting gloves, and these are the ones that we have at String and Story and that we're including in our Free Motion Quilting Academy kit, which I will show you in a moment, are these Swan Amity quilting gloves. So shout out to the Swan Amity team. They cold called me. They came up to my booth at QuiltCon and they were like, we need you to try our quilting gloves. And I was like, I'm kind of a basic girl when it comes to my notions. Like if y'all have not picked up on that, I'm a let me use what I have and get the most out of it kind of human. So I was reticent about a glove that looked so fancy. I was like, do I need it? Do I really need it? But let me talk you through some of these features. All right. So just as before, we have a surface on the palm that is going to add a little friction. In this case, it is like a suede instead of those bumpy, grippy bits, which keeps the palm a little bit just softer. And then we have mesh on the back instead of cotton or nylon for maximum breathability, okay? These two cut fingers on the end also add to breathability, and they give you a little bit more biofeedback from the edge of your quilt. Now, if you've been around here for a minute, you've heard me talk about biofeedback before, because when I'm long arming, I drive with one hand, I keep the other hand on the quilt, okay? I have terrible depth perception. My eye prescription is horrifying. I have astigmatism. I have very bad depth perception. And so actually having that feedback from touch to my brain helps me know what's going on with my quilt. So my quilting gloves for my domestic now also offer that to me, that I can actually feel my quilt a little bit more, have a little bit more hands-free. This is great too when I do ruler work. Let me put this one on so that y'all can see how I actually do it, because I put my ruler with my left hand. I keep 3 fingers on the ruler and I hang those other 2 off the back. So I kind of grip a little bit, and then I also am dragging on the quilt so I can actually feel the quilt. All right. So, and then the 2 final features of these gloves. So we've got our soft kind of grippy base, our breathable back, our biofeedback fingers. These fingertips here are touchscreen. If you've ever used cotton gloves and you have a touchscreen on your machine, you have to take your glove off in order to touch, okay? Because the conductiveness, however touchscreen works, right? I don't have to do that anymore. I have 3 fingers. I can open my phone, check the text message from my mom, right? I can adjust my stitch length and stuff over here. I can start and stop a video. I can swipe if I'm talking with y'all. It's amazing, okay? And then finally, these little pads in the palm help you resist the urge to actually press too much weight and hyperflex your hand. All right. We don't want to be stressed and pressing like this. See this angle of my hand? We want our hand to be more relaxed. Think about when we all played piano as kids, right? You're sitting there at the keyboard. You want your wrists relaxed and you're holding a bubble in your hand, right? Got that little bubble, okay? Same thing with our quilting. I guess with piano, actually, our wrists are raised a little bit more. But the bubble, y'all know what I'm talking about. That like curve in your hand. So similarly with our quilting, we're not going to have a full bubble because we don't want to be up on our fingertips, but we don't want to be pressing and hyper flexing either. Okay, so we want to be able to manage that. Please pardon the fact that we appear to have a bot who has entered the chat. I will block that user later. I apologize for the inconvenience. Let me see if I can do it from here. In fact, oh, I can. How delightful. So problem solved. All right. Let's see. I see a few things about Swan Amity gloves. If you have questions about gloves, please feel free to ask them and I will answer. Let's see. Francie says, I love my gloves. One pair hid from me, so I bought another. Then I found the first pair, so now I have two. I love that. Kirsten says, I love my Swan Amity gloves. They're not cheap, but they work. Provided a lot of support when I was dealing with a sprained hand. Yes. Oh my gosh, you're a crazy cattle dog. Kirsten, you're yes. And Christine, I love them. I love these so much. Alicia loves hers too. Yay. Francie, good to see you. Okay, so we mentioned dollar store gloves. Fons and Porter are going to run you about $8. These gloves are $25. So they are a little bit more of an investment item. Having had mine for the last 6 months, I think they're going to last better than any pair of gloves that I have had. Okay, some of this suede fabric is more durable than cotton, and the reinforced fingertips are going to help prevent actually poking holes, just from use. So you're making a bit more of an investment, but you're also supporting a small business as a husband and wife team, and we carry them here at String and Story. Okay, what supplies have I missed? I think I hit all of my things. Machine, foot, needle, thread, paper and pencil, fabric and batting, gloves. Huzzah! It's not very complicated. It's really not. So before I let you go, I want to give y'all an opportunity to ask supply related questions in the chat. And as you're doing that, I'm going to give you a little sneaky peeky of the not long arm prep, the Free Motion Quilting Academy kit that we are offering for the first time. If you are thinking ahead to the 10th cohort of Free Motion Quilting Academy later this month, you may want to think about this kit. It's going to make things pretty easy for you. I don't think my needles are actually sitting in this box at the moment, which is unfortunate. Alas, this kit will make things easy for you. It is not required, okay? So this is just a fun sneak peek. It's a fun option we've created if you don't like to run hither, there, and yon, gathering all of your things, okay? Yes, we do sell the Swan Amity gloves in the store. Yep. All right, so let me give you a quick sneaky peeky. Isn't it beautiful? It's so lovely. It makes me very happy. All right. So inside this kit, we have a number of things. First of all, we of course have thread. You're going to use a lot of thread inside Free Motion Quilting Academy. So you get 3 spools of 50 weight thread. You will get the gloves of the size of your choosing. By the way, these kits right now are pre-order because we're going to, gather all the things, make sure we have enough gloves in all the right sizes, and then we'll be shipping them out. You have 2 Quilting Rockstar panels. So these are like practice sandwiches on steroids. In this particular spring summer kit, you've got 2 placemat panels. So that gives you the opportunity to practice quilting things like sawtooth stars and piano key borders without having to piece them, which is a fun in-between step from your regular practice sandwiches before you get to your precious quilts. We have 6 half yards of solid fabric in 6 different colors that of course coordinate. All of these things color coordinate with one another because I love a good matchy match, okay? There's a throw size Hobbs batting in here, a cotton bat, and then 16 fat quarters of coordinating solids, in this case, the Margaret bundle. So colors will vary a little bit in terms of which panels you get, which fat quarters you get, which threads you get, but they will all coordinate, and you'll also get, as I mentioned, your pair of gloves and a pack of needles, which I don't have in here at the moment. So just wanted to let you know that this is available as an option, and this would be enough fabric that you could do your 2 final projects from this, as well as some practice pieces, okay? So that's available at stringandstory.com/shop. If you decide to join us for Free Motion Quilting Academy later this month, you'll get another link sent to you then too, okay? But I just wanted you to know if you're one of those folks that you're like, okay, it's not as many supplies as I thought. It still sounds like a lot to run around and gather. We've made it as easy as possible. So this is everything except your hopping foot for your machine, all right? Madeline says, hopping foot question. Missed the beginning of stream. Sorry if you covered this. My basic domestic machine doesn't have an official hopping foot at my dealer. Any tips for finding generic feet? stringandstory.com/shop. We have this one right here. In fact, I'll go grab the ones that are in the package so you can see what it looks like. Looks like we have 3 sitting on the wall here, and I can always order more. I would be delighted to order more. And they are $5, Madeline. It's such an easy yes, right? $5, and this will fit nearly all off-the-shelf machines. So unless you're sewing on an antique machine, this should fit your machine. All right, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Are the Swan gloves washable? That's a great question. Let's read the tag together. Let's see. Touchscreen compatible, breathable materials, dynamic control, adjustable wrist, patterned grip. Show a little love to your hands and give a little love to your quilts. I love that so much. Washing instructions: close Velcro, wash on delicate cycle, cold water, drip dry. Yes. I believe the starter kit is $160. It would retail, I'm going to double check my math. It would retail at $185 if you were to buy everything individually. Is that correct? Yes. So full retail value of $185, available altogether for $160, which means if you're in the domestic US, then shipping's free. Heads up. Leanne says enrollment for the Academy doesn't open until the 18th. Yes, but you can get on the wait list. I'll grab you a wait list link. Y'all are so fun. I'm so glad you're all here today. If you joined me yesterday, I had just finished a red-eye flight. So I was a tired version of myself yesterday. All right, so there is a wait list for the Academy if you want to make double sure that you know what's up when those open. Great questions. Kyle, yes, a string and story clapper. A clapper is for pressing. Oh, I can't reach mine. We have one left, I think. Yeah, we have one left. A clapper is for pressing. So you don't need this during the quilting stage, but you might need this ahead of the quilting stage to make sure your seams are nice and flat. So after you press your seams, smack this on there, and it's going to help pull the heat back out of that fabric and make it really, really crisp. Yep. Brilliant. Okay. Last call for questions. Leanne, yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Pretty sure I'm on the wait list. How many are in the class? We do not have a class limit. The wait list just helps us know that that's how many people are interested. Yep. Yes. And Kirsten, I agree with your opinion on red-eye flights. That was exactly how I felt about it. All right. So rock stars, just to review, for free motion quilting, in addition to your machine, which we discussed yesterday, you need a hopping foot. You need Schmetz or your favorite brand. I love Schmetz. Universal needles in size 16 to get you started, or Orifil 50 weight thread, paper and pen, practice sandwiches, and quilting gloves. All right. It is not a long list. It is not a large amount of investment, and you can get started on your free motion quilting journey. As I mentioned at the top of our time together, 3 quick reminders. Reminder number 1, the first link in the caption of this video talks more about needles and thread, just to give you a little bit more of a deep dive into that, because I know that there's a lot of information available, and that's something that folks often have a lot of questions about. The second link in the caption of this video is an invitation to sign up for our free quilting plan challenge at the end of the month. It's not at the end of the month. This is the middle of the month. I don't know what I'm saying. On the 15th, we will get started, and that is answering the question, what the heck do I quilt where? How do you decide what motifs to put on your quilts? How do you draw that out? And how do you begin executing? The final thing is I'm going to be live here at 11 a.m. Eastern basically every day this month, and I want to make it super easy for you to follow along. So make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube so that you can find me tomorrow. All right, thanks so much for joining me. Carolyn, that is so sweet. Carolyn says, I graduated from Free Motion Quilting Academy in August 2021. This course changed my life. Thank you forever. Carolyn, that is precious. All right, rock stars, you are incredible. I'm so thankful for each of you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.